owner of the AWF, call superstar, 12-time tag team champion of the world. This egotistical bastard is ready to shoot the shit as Shawn Walsh presents the Shawn Walsh Show, where there are no holds barred.
Gentlemen, welcome to the Shawn Walsh Show. This is your host, of course, Shawn Walsh here, and we got quite the interesting episode here today. We have on YWF's and COH's own Levi McIntire / Matt Barnes, however you know him. He's the longest reigning United States champion in YWF's history. He's also one half of the now former tag team champions, Rap Metal. We go and talk about a lot of things with Levi. We talk about his YWF run, his long United States Championship reign. We talk about his transition over to COH. We talk about some of the recent issues with rap metal and some of the things people have had to say, some of the things that have come out. Levi addresses all of that. We also talk about some metal. I mean, come on, when I have Levi on, gotta talk about some metal. So, got one hell of an interview for you guys, and I really hope you guys enjoy it because there will not be an episode of the Shawn Walsh Show next weekend. Now, I know some of you are wondering why won't there be a show? Well, I'm taking a week off, so there will be no Shawn Walsh Show next week. However, in its place, sometime next week, will be Monster Mash. Yes, I know it's a little late, but better late than never. Monster Mash calls their special event, the first matches of the first round of the Call All Stars tournament will be taking place. So that is going to be really cool. Everything is ready. It just needs to be edited and commentated, which should be done within the next couple of days. And then we can get the show up. So yes, Monster Mash next week or weekend. Be on the lookout for that, but there will not be a Shawn Walsh Show next weekend. There will be one the following week. Who the guest will be, you'll have to stay tuned to the Call Shoot page to see who the guest will be, and then you can send in your questions to AskFM/Shawn Walsh 105. Now, before we get down to business and I go talk with Levi, let's talk about the events of Battleground. You know, the biggest news in CAW in months was the events of Outbreak 3, where the Goonie beat Nate to become the COH heavyweight champion, and then the Eradication came out and beat down Nate, and Goonie turned face, and then Nate left COH. I just had Nate on, I think, 2 weeks ago, something like that, and Nate talked about it, and we all found out that we were part of a huge work. I did not know this was a work. Didn't know this at all. And I did talk to Travis. This has been the plan. And boy, did we get worked. I've seen some people who were angry about it. And why? It was a pretty good work. They did it very well. They made it very believable. You got to give those guys some credit. You got to give Travis and Nate a lot of credit for what they did. It was amazing. It's like when Mark Henry gave that retirement speech promo. You got to give credit where credit's due. Yeah, You might be mad, oh, well, I thought you were retiring and you got me all upset and then you stayed. But man, what a performance that was. And you got to give the same here. Sure, you could be angry. I was lied to. I thought he was leaving. Yeah, we got work, blah blah blah. Be happy at what these guys did. There's so much in call that PG through and can't be surprised about. This was truly a surprise. And I look very forward to what happens with Nate the Great in COH. Makes things very interesting. Now it's a must see. Battleground is a must see. You gotta see what is going to happen next. What's going to happen at when Worlds Collide? Is the COH Global Championship gonna be on the line? Are Nate and Naguni gonna join forces to face the Eradication? Or is there gonna be a rematch between Nate and Goonie? Who knows what's gonna happen? So much intrigue, so much interest. So I'm excited for it. I can't wait. But yeah, great work by those guys again. Awesome job. Now, before I send it to my interview with Levi, I'm going to send a question out for all the fans of the Shawn Walsh Show, even the haters. Please let me know who you would like to see on an episode of the Shawn Walsh Show. Whether it be for the remainder of this season, because this is episode 32, so there's not many more episodes this season for the Shawn Walsh Show. I don't know which one I will be using as the season finale. You guys will know soon enough which episode this season will be the season finale. But this goes for that and for next season, for season 3 of the Shawn Walsh Show, which will air in 2016 at some point. There's a lot of people I'd love to interview, but I want to know who you want to see on the show, even if it's obvious. Let me know. Post a comment on this video and let me know. Send me a message. However you want to contact me, let me know who you want to see on the show, and if there's interest for it, let's do it. Now I think I've taken up about a good chunk of your time, so let's go send it to my interview with Levi McIntire.
Just making sure, because I was going to say in case if you didn't, I could, but you got one, so.
Yeah, I got it. Alright. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Shawn Walsh Show, and today I am joined by the man who's doing pretty well over in the YWF and doing pretty well in the tag team scene of COH. I got Levi McIntire, a.k.a. Matt Barnes, whatever you want to call him. Levi, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be back, and this time, just me, and I'm going to get a lot of things I've been wanting to talk about for a long time off my chest, as well as other good things.
Yeah, good thing. I mean, we were just talking about before we went on the air how, you know, Levi, you're one of the few people who've been on the Shawn Walsh Show on more than one occasion, so
Yep.
it's pretty cool. It's a small list, but you know, Levi's
But a good list.
Yeah, a good list, and Levi's not on that list. It's pretty cool.
I'm number 4.
Oh, but let's get into it here. So, obviously, everybody knows Levi McIntire from YWF all the way back in 2012, right?
Yep.
And was that your first experience with call wrestling, or were you watching or in call prior to that?
Well, that's a good thought, because whenever I first got into call, it was thanks to my good friend Chronix from YWF, and also the YouTube channel Most Extreme Wrestling. And by the way, if Chronix is watching this, you need to make a damn video on that channel again. You have nearly 2,000 subs, and you haven't made a video in a year and a half. Get back into it, man. Damn it. You and your wife, Crystal. But in all seriousness, it's understandable why. But I saw, because I've known him since end of 2011 when we subbed to each other's channels, and we started talking, and I realized I have a lot in common with this guy. We both love wrestling, and we both love metal. And he looks more of a metal guy than I do because he has long hair, and I have, like, punk rock short hair or whatever. But I look more like a hardcore punk guy than a metal guy, but I'm a metal guy. But that's around the point, as Stefan Guerrero would say, out of character. I noticed a few months after I talked to him, I saw he had on his liked videos playlist or list promo called Shoot Style Mastodon, where he's doing a promo for YWF, and it was a good rhyming, poetic promo. Like, you're a small fish in a big pond, while I'm a shoot style mastodon. And I was like, wow, that was pretty cool. And then I saw he did another one where it was 20 seconds long. It was just him in this custom made effects video using his program, Pinnacle Studio, which, by the way, good program. However, don't recommend it because it stalls all the time.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend you'd get something better. Because I've had before, and while it worked for a good while, it did start to stall. But anyways, so yeah, he did these cool effects in his promos, and he has he loves to show off his abs, and he's lifting weights, and I thought, what is he doing here? Then I saw what it was for, and I saw a YWF Explosion in 2012, and I saw how it's these real-life people cutting promos like they were wrestlers, and I thought, and then the matches played in the video games, I thought, wow, this is some of the best things I've seen in my life, because we all, as wrestling fans, always have had that dream to want to be a wrestler, but some of us, in terms of physical conditioning or different reasons, we can't do that. But we can have an outlet for that by doing promos and being able to talk in front of a camera or use a microphone or what have you. And that's a really cool thing for wrestling fans to get into, is call wrestling for the right reasons, that is, to have fun. And maybe someday, if you decide to become a wrestler, doing promos, you could get that out of the way whenever you decide to go to wrestling school or what have you. You already have had that in the books. Like, you could ask Cash this, because he's trying to be a wrestler. Good for him. And I'm proud of him for that. So yeah, once I saw YWF, and I saw it was run by Marco Rose, aka Wrestling Geniuses, on YouTube. Most of these guys I've known through their YouTube channels. But I got in touch with Marco, and I told him, I really like what you're doing. I actually want to give this a try. Would you mind if I could partake in this call-fed? And he said, sure, come on in if you'd like, because at the time they were opening out new spots for new people to come in, because obviously they needed some fresh faces. Because believe me, YWF 2012 was a lot different than YWF now.
How so?
Well, the editing back in the old days was kind of in its learning stages. They were just learning how they can edit a proper call show. They did have some moments where you'd see loading screens and stuff. I had that problem when I first started ICW nearly 2 years ago. When I did the first show, I had that problem. So they were kind of in the learning stages of editing a call show. And a lot of wrestlers, or guys they had back then, most of them are gone. Guys like Deaders, Firehawk, Sexual Ginger, who I want to talk about later on. But they had a lot of different guys. Of course, you had the guys that most people know YWF for, like Steve Nemesis, AM Punk, Chronix, and so on and so forth. They were around at that time. And by the way, quick story. Steve, and if you ask him this, he'll tell you exactly what I'm about to say. When he first started on YWF, he was a drug addict character.
Huh.
Yeah, and then he eventually changed into more of like a CM Punk kind of character once the faction, the Resistance, came in with him, Travis, and Kevin. Which, by the way, very underrated Caw faction that I wish people would remember more often, but it's alright. But once I made my debut, the character I was kind of going for in the old days was kind of more of a mixture of Taz and Samoa Joe, more Taz in the promos and Samoa Joe with the Caw kind of. Mm-hmm. However, the old Caw I had, he looked more like Ryback, but with a mohawk. And I'll never forget this as long as I live, but my very first Caw match, it was in the middle of season 2 of YWF, and around the same time Adam was getting into YWF, except he had a character called Rave.
Mm-hmm.
And my first match was with Adam. And I didn't know Rave was Adam until 2 years later, or maybe a year later, when I first started talking to Adam, and he was talking about YWF. I was like, wait, were you Rave? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh my god, you were my first opponent ever. Holy crap, that is news to me. So that was a shocker for him and myself. But in that match, this was during a time where they did have a short-lived faction called the YWO, where they had a guy named Kilo and Travis was part of, and Nate was a part of. Mm-hmm. Except this was very short-lived, and Marco doesn't want to remember it.
Yeah.
But they were doing the invasion thing, and Travis did the commentary for this episode, and he said, "We are live from Crystal's vagina," and I was like, good lord. Typical Travis, he'll be a troll on commentary sometimes, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And during my match, he pretty much was going full comedy mode on me and Adam. He called Adam Roid Boy and me Fat Ass. He goes, it's Fat Ass versus Roid Boy. And when he saw me come out, I don't know why Marco did this, but apparently in my entrance, he gave me a shirt that said, "Kill Levi, kill." I never asked him about it, but I always wondered, what was the deal with that? And whenever Travis saw that, he goes, "Kill Levy, kill?" Yeah, he called me Levy at the time. And he goes, "Really? I have never seen that before. That's original." And because my theme song at the time was Taz's ECW theme, because I didn't have any say at the time of what my theme song should be until later on. But during the match, like, he would just go crazy. He said, "And who the fuck's this guy named Levy McIntire? Is he Drew McIntyre's rejected brother or something? I don't know." Probably Taz rejected him too, or Kevin Steen rejected him too. So he took all of his 3 rejects and combined them into one reject of a gimmick, and that's how you get Levy McIntyre. And then he goes, well, he's fat! He's a fat ass! I'll make him bleed, come on! And oh, what a nice move by Fat Ass. But I tell you, that match I want to kind of forget about because the ending was so bad. I win with a headbutt.
Oh, God, the headbutt of death.
And Travis even was like, "What? That sucked. Boo, that was weak. That was weak." You'd have to talk to Travis more about this because, oh, it was just too funny. I still laugh at it to this day. But after that, I kind of was floating around waiting for opportunities to come about. And then after a couple months, Marco decided to put me in a feud against somebody. And I was like, okay. And he puts me up against a big-time YWF star who has made on and off appearances for the last couple of years. Their first world champion and the first 2-time world champion, Ryan Sousa, who, by the way, even though he was pretty much a rip-off of The Rock, he did a pretty good job with it. But that was my first real Caw feud I had. And it is one of my favorite feuds of all time because it was my first. Mm-hmm. And it put me on the map because how it went, it was pretty much start out in a tag match, and I got pinned by Sousa. Then that led to a match at, did you watch CyberSlam?
Oh my.
At the very first YWF CyberSlam, I had my first CPV match against him, and I beat him. Then we kept it going into season 3 when they first did their brand split with Mayhem and Explosion. Me and him both went to Explosion, continued the feud. He would beat me on an episode of Explosion, then that would lead to the first ever Last Man Standing match in YWF history, and I beat him, and we haven't crossed paths since, and that's kind of sucks because we tied matchup wins in that feud, and the idea I had for the third, which I actually will talk about a little bit later, excuse me. So then after that was over, I was interjected into the Money in the Bank for the second ever Super Brawl. Which that lineup for a Money in the Bank match was, for YWF standards, pretty stacked. YWF Money in the Bank, you had myself, Austin, and a little backstory about him getting in the call. I'm the one who pretty much brought him in. I showed, because I'd been talking to him ever since he was like 12 or 13 in 2012 via PS3.
Oh, wow.
So I've known him for a long time, before he even got in the call. I showed it to him, and he's like, I want to do this. And also along with another friend of ours named Andy, who was Daniel Anderson in YWF, who has been going on and off in YWF because he just really on and off on YouTube in general. And it sucks because he's a good friend of mine, and he's Canadian, eh? And I brought them both in, and they got to be in a feud together, in which Austin broke out of that. He got into the Money in the Bank with myself, along with Anthony Ace, who was an established original YWF guy. Davey Colton, who was like a little British kid, who's a really nice kid, who I've talked to a little bit, but he got taken out of the match due to a storyline that was going on. TJ Profit was in the match too. And, oh god, and then this guy, one of the worst guys in CAW, a guy named Joey Miles, and Cash has seen a promo of his. I am not lying to you. This promo he cut for the Money in the Bank match at Super Brawl 2 is just him going, I'm Joey Miles, and I'm excited to be in this match. And then he takes a JBL action figure and throws it against his box fan. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
That's terrible.
I don't even know why. But when Davey Cole got taken out, Chronix got added in because the storyline going in that show was because the Patriot had come in to YWF, and that same show Chronix lost the U.S. title in 11 seconds to Patriot. And then Chronix decided to take out his former tag partner, Davey Colton, and get into the Money in the Bank and win.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest with Chronix's history after that. Then after that show, I was originally what Marco was going to have me do. He was originally going to have me feud with Patriot for the U.S. title a lot earlier than when we did. He was going to have me feud against him at the final CPV of that season at Fully Loaded, but instead, Marco's like, actually, no, we're going to give you a shot at the world title. Well, that caught me by surprise, and I was going up against Carl Jams, who was the YWF World Champ at the time, and me and him had a pretty good short feud, even though the promos I cut, quality-wise, were good. I was pretty much ripping off John Moxley or Dean Ambrose, and I look back at that and I thought, I could have done so much better with the creativity behind those promos, but it was what it was.
Yeah.
And then we ended up having a killer match at the Fully Loaded show, and then, of course, after the match, Chronix won the belt via cash-in. We move into the fourth season. I start off battling the Patriot. Then I got another title shot against Chronix, in which I won by DQ because this was when Mocha Bane was coming in, and this was when our feud pretty much started, when he cost me the damn world title. Then we get into the Rumble match, and I get eliminated by Patriot, and then that continued our feud into the match we would get at Guilty as Charged for the U.S. title. We get into that, and with that feud, to comment on that, I carried that feud because this was during the time when Steve, Marco, and Chronix weren't really on the best of terms with each other. So there was a lot of conflict between those guys. And then I ended up talking to Steve, and I said, you need to get Patriot to do a promo, because I've been cutting promos left and right for this feud, and I think he should do at least one. Wasn't the best Patriot promo, but it wasn't terrible. But you can tell he kind of rushed it just for the sake of just getting a promo out. Kind of like what happened with me at the end of the Rapmel Ego feud. Kind of the same situation, but it all worked out because when we had the match we had was amazing. They gave us like a good 10, 15 minutes, and we had a hell of a match, and that was when I won my first CAW championship, the YWF US title. And I'm now the longest reigning US champion, which is quite an accomplishment for a guy who's not been in this not nearly as long as guys like you or Steve or Cash or whoever.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, you've held the United States Championship for quite a while now. You know,
over a year.
Yeah, very recognized with that championship, and it's such a sign of like. It's a sign of like your accomplishments. Like, it's CAW.
Yeah.
But you know, it shows like. Even though those pixels mean like, oh wow, this work that I've put in for the last couple of years actually is pretty cool. It's almost like a made up reward.
Yeah, you do have a feeling of a little bit of an accomplishment because whenever you do the hardest you can in promos and you get rewarded with that does mean a little bit to people when it comes to trying to get better as a talker and stuff like that, and you get that kind of reward. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so the ball kept on rolling with me as U.S. champ to the point where at the CyberSlam that Sonny kept doing that. Did you watch CyberSlam?
Uh-huh.
The second ever where I ended up having a match with J Kong. And by the way, J Kong, pretty underrated in my opinion. I mean, he's not a bad talker or anything. It's just that if you try to put him in a singles run, it's like he don't get much recognition. That was his one bright spot that he did get a match with me. And we had a decent short program that had an interesting angle that we did. The explosion before CyberSlam, we had a tag match. Me, him against Chronix and Mocha Bane. And I cut this cool promo where I say, you are no threat to me. I don't even consider you a threat. You ain't nothing compared to me. So for this tag match, I'm not even going to tag you in because I'm such a beast. I'll just try to win the match myself. And then that led to the angle where Jay Kong would punch me in the face and leave, and then I lost. But I say Season 4 YWF was my best performance call-wise as far as matches because I only lost 2 matches, and they were tag matches.
It's pretty good.
The tag match I mentioned. And then one, which, by the way, you want to talk about a star-studded match. It was the explosion after Guilty as Charged. This was when Austin got to be a part of Generation Next for a short time. Because Mocha Bane had won the Rumble and Stu became the world champion. And Mocha had to make a choice. Stu or Austin for CyberSlam for the belt. And he's like, well, I will say, I'm not going up against my Gen Next brother. And we're like, what? And I'm not joking, I marked out when it was Austin, because Austin at the time, he was the internet heavyweight champion over on Mayhem during the time when Mayhem was pretty much the Austin Reed show, as a lot of people called it. But then again, you had Amir doing stuff. Well, he, in my honest opinion, that most of that season, he didn't really do hardly anything until the end when he got to be in Gen Next. But Capital Dude was in a good feud with Mocha at the time and then kind of fell off the face of the earth in YWF after that. But the tag match I'm talking about, it was a 6-man. It was me, Stu, and Steve, because Steve just came back with the Steve Nemesis character around this time. It was us 3 going up against Austin, Chronix, and Mocha Bane. That's a star-studded match for YWF right there.
Yeah.
And Gen Next ended up winning, but now we move on to present day YWF, where for those who don't know, and I wish people didn't know, but now it's out there, I lost the U.S. title to Amazing Punk. Little story of that, whenever I found out from Chronics that I was going to lose to Amazing Punk for the U.S. title, me and Austin were like both like, hell no, there's no way we can allow this, because this was going into the big part of the feud with me and Mocha that we're currently doing right now. And I thought, if I'm going to lose to Amazing Punk, that's going to make me look weak, because I'm supposed to be looking strong. And honestly, what should have happened, this was the original plan for the match at Super Brawl coming up that we're having. It was originally going to be a title for title, world and U.S. title.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't know that it wasn't going to happen until recently, where I talked to Chronics when he said I'm losing to Amazing Punk on the Explosion After Anarchy Rules. I was just like, what? And I was like, I thought we were going to do title for title. And he said, we were, but don't you remember? We decided not to. And I was like, I don't recall. Because there are things I forget a lot. And when that happened, me and Austin, we were discussing any other possibilities. And I kept on trying to pitch the idea that, how about instead of Amazing Punk, and honestly, Amazing Punk, in my opinion, shouldn't have even gotten the belt to begin with, because he spoiled on the YWF page that he was going to win the title. I thought, if he was going to spoil that, then he should not get that.
Right.
Because that was pretty dumb on his part. But Chronics and Marco, I guess, talked to him about it and so on, blah, blah, blah. I kept trying to pitch to Chronics, instead of Amazing Punk, have me drop the belt to Michael Crowley, which is Cash's character in YWF. Mm-hmm. Granted, it would have been a little too soon for him because he's just starting out in YWF, but I thought he could have been a good U.S. champion. But we came up with a compromise. How about instead of me losing cleanly, how about I just beat him up throughout most of the match? Because during the same show, the opening match was the star-studded number one contenders battle royal with myself, Austin, Chronic, Steve, Stu, and the Patriot. Because the Patriot is just now coming back in the YWF. So we did that. I win. I'm the number one contender for the world title. Me and Mocha do this good back and forth segment, and I made the stipulation that our title match at Super Brawl is going to be the last man standing match, because that gives me the advantage, because there's only been one, and I'm one of the only guys in it, and I won that, so it's my specialty. And Mocha would be like, well, if you want a last man standing match, you put your U.S. title on the line tonight. And I said, no problem. And Mocha would come out, he would distract me, and then I get rolled up, and Amazing Punk wins. So I didn't have a problem with the finish. The only problem I had was, why the hell did I shake hands with him? That made no sense to me personally, but I know what's going to happen with the whole Amazing Punk U.S. title thing. It's leading up to something bigger, which I won't spoil, but let's just say a lot of change is going to happen with mid-card belts.
Okay.
So now we are rolling with me and Mocha Bane to the point where when the next explosion comes up, I believe Chronic's is going to have it be the opening moment of the show, is where you're going to see the best promo I have ever cut in all of CAW. And I'm very proud of this promo. And I even showed it to Cash, I've showed it to Alex, I've showed it to Chronix, Marco, Austin. They all love it. So
I'm excited for that. Let's see it. You know, all it takes to get to that level is that one promo. So
yep,
that might be it. And we'll come back with, you know, some YW stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Later,
particularly some of the people that I have a problem with, but
yeah. Let's talk about some other things, such as let's talk about VCW. All right, because VCW, I just had Scott on, and we talked about how it was a little on and off,
Yeah.
And you've been a part of VCW with not just part of the show. You did commentary for the show, but you also did stuff behind the scenes for VCW. You did booking for VCW, and you helped out and all that kinds of stuff. What did you do? Maybe explain a little bit more what you did with VCW.
Well, the big reason how I got involved with VCW was when I had the original ICW going back in early 2014. Because I decided, I got a Hapog capture card and I had 2K14. I thought I might give this a try of making a call show. And in the first show I did, there was a lot of work needing to be done with timing of the commentary because I wasn't the best at editing audio timing on stuff like I am now. I've gotten better at that. But Scott commented about how I did my show and he said, you really got to edit your shows. And I noticed he did his work for VCW and I really, really enjoyed it. And so he came in to help me out, show me how to edit, give me softwares to work with. And I thank him for that because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know how to edit a call show. He did the second show for ICW himself, and then I took what I learned from how he does his editing and how he did the second episode into the third episode, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It was a proud moment for me in COD the way the third ever episode of ICW came out, despite some of the commentary being off sync, but again, that was during the time when I wasn't the best at syncing commentary with shows. But the matches and the editing was pretty solid, I'd say. But then after realizing that it was just a hassle trying to edit and render for a total of 6 hours on a slow laptop that I had that was pretty shitty, I decided, I don't know if I could keep this going with this crappy computer because it's just not working. And also, I have a tendency to be very impatient sometimes with things. So I was just like, I can't keep this going. So I decided to merge the old ICW with VCW, and that's when I came in to do co-booking, and same with Austin, because Austin was a co-booker of old ICW. So we all had some ideas to work with, but the only problem was we never did get to do a whole lot because obviously I ended up just falling off of the face of the planet in terms of VCW, and same with Scott. So we just scrapped it. But originally we were going to do the merging of the old ICW with VCW, but we never did.
Well, yeah, let's
do a lot.
Let's talk about that because I know we talked about that briefly when I had Scott on, and there was a time when ICW and VCW merged, and it was weird. So I'll say what I know about it, and then you either just correct me or explain more. All right. You guys merged, Scott had the editing and everything, and you did the recording, so you guys kind of just to do some sort of a partnership where you merged. ICW guys came over to VCW, and you and Austin were already doing commentary, I believe so. Or did you start doing commentary afterwards?
I don't remember if we did any commentaries. I don't think we did. We may have. I just don't remember. Then again, this goes back a long time, a year and a half.
And then you guys had the partnership. You guys merged, and then you decided you wanted to do ICW again, and you pulled out of the partnership.
Well, actually, that's not true. What was happening was I decided to start a whole new fed called CWA,
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I kind of got a little bit of heat with Paul, for those who don't know Morris and COH and Call Legend. I kind of got into a little bit of a spat with him. He thought it was fucked up that I'd be leaving Scott hanging if I do my own Fed, and I said, nah, I'll still help out with Scott. I just want to do my own thing on the other side. But what ended up happening was there was already a CWA, and I thought, well, damn, I can't do this now, can I? Because this is during the time when I finally got a brand new computer to work with that's pretty good. 8 gig RAM and 2 terabyte hard drive, which is pretty beefy.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, since I got something better to work with, I could do my own show again. And Scott kind of agreed with Paul, but not in like a angry way, kind of like what Paul was. He kind of was just like, I kind of wish you didn't do it, but that's what ended up happening when YVCW kind of went under. But yeah.
Do you regret that decision at all, or do you?
Oh yeah. I really wish I could have helped out a lot more than what was going on at the time. Like, because Scott had a very, very good Fed, and it sucks that it's no longer active, because I really enjoyed what he did. But I can understand that it is because of me trying to do my own thing, which, yeah, I look back on it now, it was kind of fucked up on my part, and I don't ever like to do stuff like that where people say you're fucked up for this and blah, blah, blah. Because at the end of the day, I don't ever want anybody to hate me, because I like to live my life a happy life, just like most people should. So, yeah.
All right. Now, let's talk more about your call shows, because as people know, you've dabbled a little bit with running the call show.
Yeah.
It's been an on and off bumpy road.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. It has been a bumpy road.
Yeah. Whether it be ICW or CWA, and now ICW once again. First of all, what is the status on ICW?
Well, that I saw on the podcast you did with Travis, Adam, and Steve, somebody asked thoughts on it moving to having to be waiting until December. The reason for that was because when I was getting the plannings going on for the revamp of ICW, and I was getting a lot of good characters on the show, and me and Austin booking again, we had all these great ideas. We were going to have some of the plans we were going to do was have the world title feud be DT Money or Donovan Rucker against Stefan Guerrero, because I wanted to give Stefan his first world championship, because I thought he was getting so good at the time when I was getting ICW trying to revamp again. I thought, you know what, I'll be the first guy to give him a world title. Other stuff I had, because also I'm a part of the NASCAR NR 2003 community, and some of the people in that community are big wrestling fans. So I brought in a couple of those guys, Dylan Young and Seth Cole, who have talked to Austin and Stu in the past and are friends with them. We introduced them to Caw, and they liked it, and they wanted to try it for my Fed. And Seth, he's a hell of a talker, and for a guy just starting out in Caw, he was doing very good as a promo cutter. Dylan Young, he was using the D's nuts jokes and all this crap. I thought, what is he doing? I was going to have to tell him, you need to lay back on the YouTube internet meme shit. Because what I was going to have him be my Zane LaFontaine, be the big underdog, who's a big guy but is a high flyer. Because Dylan Young in real life, he's 6'5". He's a tall motherfucker. But I had a lot of interesting characters. I was going to do what Cash always wanted to do, and that's a tag team or faction where it's about stoners. I was going to have that happen with him and Mitchell Seagal, aka Capital Dude in YWF. They were going to be that team. And then other plans I had. One of the big plans that I had was going to be the First World Problems tag team of Kevin Wonderman and El Immigrante versus a tag team that a lot of people wanted to see, Patriot and J-Crack. I was going to have that happen. Now here's where the problems came in. This was around June or July, around this time. I was just a few months before March, going into the summer. I was just starting out with my job. At first, my schedule was a little lighter. I had more time to do stuff. Then once the summer came in, my work schedule got way out of control. Working 5 days a week for from 11 in the morning or most of the time 2 in the afternoon, and I'd be there till 8, 9 o'clock at night. I would come home so exhausted. It's the last thing I wanted to do was cut promos or work on my show because I'm just so tired. I just want to relax, maybe do it at another period. And because of how my work schedule got, I just didn't have the time to do ICW. And I originally was going to have it be on hiatus until December of this year, when I would be off of my job, because the place I work at, they don't operate during the winter time. So I would have been laid off for a few months until March, when I can come back, whenever the place would open up again. And I thought, well, I'll take this time to try to get ICW going again. But now, and also I noticed on that same podcast, there was something about you mentioning that certain people who was looking forward to, and they thought it wasn't going to happen, that they asked if they could use their characters on your developmental show. And I thought, well, now, and I talked about this during the day we were recording this morning with Travis about that. I was saying, I guess because of that, and also how people seem to not have faith in me as a call owner, I just thought, well, I just barely think about ever doing it again because of the reputation I was having. At least I'm not Justin Collins, where it was a case of me disappearing off the face of the planet and not saying anything. I'm just coming out being honest that during the summertime, I just got in way over my head. My work schedule got out of control. And now, because of the reputation I got for something like that, I decided I'm probably not going to do it. And I feel bad, and it makes me look like an asshole, and I really do feel bad about that, but it's been 4 or 5 months, and I've barely even thought about touching that idea ever again. But maybe someday, maybe not a full-fledged call-fed, but maybe one-off, fantasy call shows with people I would love to see have a match against and whatnot. Say I could do a fantasy show where I could have the Alex Enterprise versus Justin Bateman or something like that.
Right.
Fantasy stuff like that, where they don't have to do promos. I'm just playing the matches and doing the commentary just for fun. And I may have Austin do that, because me and him used to do that a lot back in the day, where I would play a game, I'd turn on my webcam, show my screen, and me and him, I would play the matches, me and him would do commentary over it and have a lot of fun doing that. It'd be kind of something like that if I were to ever run some call-related myself ever again. Probably not a full-fledged fed, because I'm afraid it'll just get shot on, and that would suck. So that's pretty much the status of ICW. It's most likely, it's kind of like what happened with Cash with FSW. It's pretty much that same situation.
Alright. So, there's news there for people who do not know, and that it's a shame, but,
It is a shame, and like I said, I do feel bad, and it makes me look like an asshole, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, you know what? Life happens.
Yeah, life's a bitch.
Yeah, so, I don't blame you. Things happen. Now,
I'm sure you've run into problems like that.
oh yeah, a lot. Now, I know this is a call podcast, but I can't have Levi McIntire on without talking about some metal.
Oh, great.
All right,
All right.
give a top 10 metal list.
Oh boy.
So,
Not that shit again. Hey, come on, people. It's just what I like to do on Facebook. And I got a lot of male friends who like those lists anyway, so there you go. Whatever. It's out there. Well, it's been out there forever, but you get what I mean.
now, first of all, I'm pretty sure this is correct. Metallica, is that your favorite?
100% true, yes.
100% true. What's your favorite song from Metallica?
Well, they got a lot of great songs.
Oh yeah.
They have a lot, but if I were to say the one song I could, hold on. If I could listen to one song the rest of my life and never get tired with it, it would be the song Master of Puppets. I just love that song to death because it's fast and heavy, but also has that really cool middle part where Hetfield's doing the solo and it's very soft, and then it gets back into that dun 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 parts, and it's just awesome.
All right. What are a couple other that would be in those top 10? Maybe not all 10, but just a couple other bands that are at the top of that list besides Metallica.
Well, I always say this to any friends of mine who are rock or metal fans: the 5 bands that never leave a favorites list are Metallica, Avenged Sevenfold, Megadeth, Black Sabbath, Van Halen. Now, a rest of a list changes like the tide, but if I were to say 6 through 10 currently, it would be Opeth, Iron Maiden, Alice in Chains, Death, and Mastodon. For different reasons. Some of these bands I've discovered lately over the last year and a half or so, I've been discovering more different styles of metal and rock music that I hadn't listened to too much before, like death metal and black metal, and then eventually more punk rock stuff and progressive rock and more classic rock I wasn't aware of, even though I grew up on classic rock from my family because that was their favorite kind of music. Mm-hmm. And we all have to somehow find a way to appreciate the music you grew up with from your mother and father. At some point in your life. And it's because of them with listening to stuff like Cream and Hendrix, Van Halen, AC/DC, so on and so forth, Steve Miller, that got me into all this. But when it came to the metal stuff, it was from one of my older brothers who loved Metallica so much, and I heard Metallica when I was 6 years old. And I've been a metal guy since, but it's been gradually over the years that I've discovered more and more bands. For a long time, I was a massive Slipknot guy, but now I've kind of got turned off of Slipknot after getting better music ears and hearing much better musical bands like Opeth and stuff like that. But, I've been listening to, older rock bands from the 70s like Yes, Genesis, King Crimson, Kansas, Jethro Tull, Pink Floyd, a lot of those kinds of bands that I may have heard a song or two of in the past, but not a whole lot. Cause I'm a kind of music, I'm the kind of rock or metal guy who wants to hear certain dynamics in the music, which is what progressive music's all about. Progressive rock, progressive metal, what have you. So I've been getting more into progressive oriented bands like Opeth, who have that foundation of bands like Rush, Pink Floyd, and stuff with the dynamics and diversity, but with a extreme metal sound, like a death metal band, to the point where Opeth could be argued as maybe the best metal band of the last 20 years in some cases, because they put out consistent albums, quality albums, where they have had, in my personal opinion, perfect albums. There's no album of theirs where you could say, it sucked. It's not like that. For anybody who listens to this show who are rock or metal fans, check out Opeth, because they are quality bands, a quality band that has that good combination of death metal vocals with phenomenal singing and just great guitars, drums, and they're a band along with several others that makes me want to try to play music myself, and I talked about it with you before the show started.
Oh, yeah. Alright. One band. We got, obviously, you gotta listen to Disturbed, right?
Yeah, I like Disturbed.
Now,
except for the Asylum album, personally, but yeah.
Alright, now one of the things with Disturbed is Disturbed sometimes gets some of the criticism that like a band like a Nickelback will get, and some people will say that their songs sound the same. Do you believe that to be so with Disturbed?
No, I just think that the problem a lot of people I've noticed seem to have with Disturbed is like the tones of some of their songs may sound the same, but structure-wise, it's not. You know, you get different sounding riffs and stuff like that, lyrics and so on and so forth. But the Asylum album was the album where people started to kind of see that, where they did have similar sounding songs, which that was kind of a reason why I kind of got turned off Disturbed. But I haven't listened to a lot of their new album, but the stuff I have heard, it's definitely a good return to form for them. So it brought my faith back in Disturbed after the album. But the only other issue is the fact that when Drainman decided to put Disturbed on a hiatus and do the Device band, oh my god, Device was so terrible. So bad. However, one song, him and Lizzie Hale from Hailstorm doing a cover of Lita Ford and Ozzy Osbourne's Close My Eyes Forever, wasn't a bad attempt. It was actually a decent song, and it showed David Draymond can sing his ass off, but during Asylum, he was just singing the same way, and it's like thinking, David, you have a range, utilize it, man, because you're not using it enough. And I think to myself, who cares what they think, what they like? Use what you have, and you can make something better than this piece of crap, the Device album. Thank God he did make something better with the last album, and I've heard it's a great album. I haven't listened to it all, but I'll have to at some point.
Alright.
I rest my case.
Let's get back to some call here. Now, This is gonna be some not so fun call stuff though. This is gonna be about SPW.
Oh boy.
What we've heard SPW talked about a few times in the show. We've heard some stories, some I would call them horror stories.
Yep.
What the hell happened with SPW?
Gotta take a deep breath and a drink of water for this. Alright. Of course, as we all know, SPW was a fed started up by the quote-unquote great Justin Collins. I mean, Justin Collins is not a bad guy, he's a cool guy, but when it comes to him and a call fed, holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
He did, and Andrew can attest this, he did have a good show as the original ACW.
Mm-hmm.
He had a good show where he made Marco Rose the world champion and Steve the Gen Next champion. But then after he closed that down, he then got IWA, which was meant to be a territory call show, which in theory it's a good idea. The way he executed it was bad. Then he tries to do the ACW revival called Anarchy Rising, and that show died within a half a second. And then SPW comes around, and he decided he wanted to stay committed with it. He asked me to join. I was kind of unsure at first, but then I was like, alright, I'll give this one a try, see what happens. And he had Sonny and David Bentz, or Daniel Mars, as co-bookers. Originally, they were going to book me as their top heel and their first world champion in feud with Stewart, who was doing who's bringing the Seth McIntire character he had in ACW and YWF over to SPW.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking forward to that. Then a month after the first show was put up, Justin decided to make the announcement that instead of the tournament continuing, it's going to be a fatal 4-way with Levi McIntire, Jay Crack, Daniel Mars, Seth McInerney for the world title. But here was the kicker. He decided to, instead of playing the matches, he's just going to let the AI do the work. And the problem with AI matches is that whenever you're trying to do them, it takes a while for you to get the outcome you really want.
Oh, yeah.
And Justin took the lazy route and just did not care. He just, after one attempt at an AI match, he would record that and just leave it like that, to the point where when you do that and you're lazy with AI stuff, plans screw up and it brings up a lot of confusion. I end up being the first one eliminated in this match, and Daniel Mars becomes the first world champion. And to address people who hate on David Bentz for saying, or for people saying, oh, David Bentz, he's a co-booker for SPW, and he wins the world title. He obviously booked himself to win. No, that's not the case. He's talked to me about this. I can vouch for him. That was not his intent whatsoever. And Sonny was even upset that this happened, and he was hoping to keep the plans of me being world champion because it would have been interesting, because I was meant to be the top heel. But then all that happens, but some positives did come out of that. We now got in COH Stephon Guerrero and David Rivera and the one Mark Kennedy coming out of that, and they're doing well in their own rights. So that was one of the positives, but other than that, then shortly after, Justin decided to put me into a feud with Stephon, and I thought, well, this could be a good opportunity to help out a newbie in Caw, because I showed him what Caw was like, and he wanted to give it a try, and Collins wanted me to work with him and help him out and help him learn. I was like, sure, I'll give it a shot. But this is where the shit starts. The real shit. Justin Collins is the kind of Caw owner who seems to know how to do step number 1, but can't do step number 2.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know how to stay on the right path or the right plans he has. Because I am not lying. Well, I may be exaggerating it a little bit, but it did seem this way. Every damn day during this feud with me and Stephon, it seemed that Collins just did not know what he wanted as a solid game plan. Because it seemed like it was every day he would say, oh, hey Levi, you and Stephon are going to feud. Next day, you and Stephon are going to feud, and it's going to be for a number 1 contendership at the world title. Next day, no, you two are just fighting just for the hell of it. Next day, oh, after 1 or 2 matches, you guys are going to be a tag team. The next day, oh, you're going to turn babyface and get injured and then come back with a broken arm and beat Stephon. I'm thinking, do you not know how to stay on a game plan? Like, I didn't message him that, but that's really how I felt. Like, can you not make up your mind of what you want to do? And plus, you were doing the AI stuff and not caring to begin with. And also, here's the fucked up part. This is the big fucked up part of SPW. Justin decided to partner that channel to Machinima.
Oh, yeah.
And in my opinion, when it comes to people wanting to get their Caw shows partnered with Machinima, all I'm going to say is, if you don't give the people who are doing the work for you promo-wise, if you don't give them a cut, then go fuck yourself. Because that's just shady and fucked up. And it was to the point where he even wanted to get the people in SPW to have like loyalty-free songs so that way he could make money off of what we were doing. And I was like, nope, not having this. I'm done with this. I'm out. And a lot of people quit. Pretty much like 90% of that roster quit SPW because they found out about that. And yeah, so pretty much with Collins, he's not a bad guy, but like I said, when it comes to him trying to run a call show, booking-wise, he does not know how to keep a game plan.
No, not at all. He's one of the most inconsistent guys in call.
I could say, at least with me, with my shows, whenever I would have a storyline or a feud booked, I would try my best to keep it consistent.
Yeah.
When I could.
Did Justin Collins, because from what I've known, he's been gone for a very long time. He's
been gone for like a year and a half.
Yeah. I mean, what would happen in a hypothetical scenario where Justin Collins came back and he started up another show or brought back a show? Would that draw any interest to you, or would you have no interest?
I would have personally no interest, because I would think it's just going to be the same thing. Even when SPW got going, Justin wanted Austin to join, and Austin flat out refused. Because he pretty much knew it was going to go into the ground to begin with. And I'm thinking, well, you made the right call.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly didn't. Oh, God. But yeah, just that whole SPW debacle with everything that went down, to the point where he didn't get the right Rumble winner for his Rumble. And also, another problem that I almost forgot about until now. You want to talk about lazy cause to use? He was the laziest of them all in this case. He just downloaded people. Like, he downloaded Samoa Joe for me. He downloads Dean Ambrose for Stu. And Austin Aries, I think, for Adam. Or somebody like that. Cash was even there as Mark Mayhem. And he ended up jobbing to a certain infamous call guy that we don't ever want to speak of again. And had the wrong theme song that Cash had recommended to Justin, but Justin decided, nah, you're not going to use it. So yeah, it's like, yeah. Just the one word to describe SPW, laziness.
I think that's fair, yeah.
Now let's let the good times roll again.
Let's let the good times roll. Let's enter COH. Now, you and Austin both came over to COH to be a part of the Do or Die tournament.
Yep.
But you guys came in as your YWF gimmicks?
Yeah, originally, yes.
You came in, like, he came in as Austin Reed, you came in as Levi McIntire. You went all the way, and you won.
Which was shocking, I'll honestly say. Because the people Mark Travis had in that tournament, and real quick before I get into that, just a little note I almost forgot to bring up until now. Originally, I was going to join COH at the end of 2012, but Travis had a full roster, so I couldn't at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he did say that once there were some open spots, he would let me know. This was when he did the tournament by adding me into it. This was a good opportunity. And the people I could recall he had myself, he had Austin, he had Amazing Punk, he had Jay, he had Max Youngblood, he had Marco Gruber, and Justin Collins' only good call character, Rochambeau. So those were, and Mitch M. Mm-hmm. So those were all the people he had in the second Do or Die. And how he had them set up, I believe, if I recall, he had Jay go up against Mitch. Or actually, no, Jay versus Austin. Max against Mitch. Justin versus Gruber, and myself and Amazing Punk. And a lot of big time, and a couple of big COH moments came out of that show. For one, I had the shortest match in COH history of 13 seconds beating Amazing Punk. And Patriots commentary during that was some of the best, funniest stuff I've ever heard, where once the bell rang, meat hook clothesline, and Patriots like, that is cheating! That is cheating! I call a redo right now! It was so funny. So yeah, if I recall, I beat Amazing Punk, Austin beat Jay, Max beat Mitch, and Justin beat Gruber. So the semifinals, it was me, Rochambeau, and Max versus Austin.
Mm-hmm.
I would go on to beat Justin. Austin would go on to beat Max. And me and Austin were looking at this like, what? Me and you are in the finals? What? I was like, whoa, this is awesome. And Patriots commentary during that, he goes, oh, I don't care who even wins this match. You got one guy who disrespects the Amazing Punk because Austin, the call he had for he downloaded Austin's call from Marco, and Marco forgot to change his entrance attire, so it had the Punk Fears Austin shirt, because this was during in YWF when Austin was feuding with Amir.
Mm-hmm.
So he forgot to change his shirt. But at least Travis and Patriot found a way to work with that and say that it was Amazing Punk. Patriot just went full-on heat mode on him. So yeah, you have a guy who disrespects the Amazing Punk against a guy who conspires against the Amazing Punk. Oh, so we had that match, and it was an awesome match that we had. And somehow I ended up winning. I thought, well, if it was going to come down to me and Austin, I'm thinking Austin's going to win because I'll be honest, Austin, as far as a call guy and a promo cutter, is 10 times better of a guy than I could ever be. Because at least with him, he has that charisma to work with. While me, I don't necessarily. I've been improving immensely, at least in YWF. I can't comment too much on COH now, which we'll get into more of that later.
Yeah.
But I win. I was like, okay, I'm glad I'm in one of the elite feds in this whole shindig. And then that whole thing with having to change the name, I was fully committed to doing the War Machine character over in COH. And I'm going to air this out there because I have heard a couple people bring up this point. If I would have kept the War Machine character and not do a tag team in COH, some people have said that I would have been getting the Fisk push. Like, go undefeated and get the Pride title or something like that. Maybe not necessarily true, but I have heard a couple people say that. I can't remember who exactly, but there have been a couple people who have made that case. But also, when the Do or Die show ended up happening, which was, I believe, September 2013, this was the start of the whole COH versus YWF thing, at least between Amir, Marco, Chronix, Travis, and Steve.
Mm-hmm.
They were all starting to have their problems over dumb shit that shouldn't have even been discussed or even having problems with. It's one of those cases like, can we all just get along to just get along situations? But because of that, Marco, he saw what happened, and he said, I don't think you should go over to COH with your YWF character, because from what I've seen Travis do with YWF guys who go over, they're not getting pushed. And I kind of thought that was a little odd, because Carl Jams went over, and he was the tag team champions with Patriot.
Mm-hmm. And it was also revealed on the show that Carl Jams, had he not, go AWOL, was planned to be in the world title match for Ultimate Glory.
Yeah, and also to make this note, I miss Carl Jam so much on Skype. He was a very fun person to talk to. Plus, another side note, he's the closest guy in CAW that lives by me. He lives like an hour away in Wilmington, Ohio. I always wanted to chat him up and say, hey, if I just come out to hang out with you and get to know you better, maybe I can help bring you back in the CAW and get your ass back into it. Because we miss you. We miss you because you were relevant and doing good things. And it sucks that he ended up just disappearing out of nowhere. But yeah, so back to the whole deal with the name change. Yeah, Marco he had his fears of, he thought I wouldn't go anywhere if I used my YWF character, which if you talk to Travis now, that ain't the case, because Travis was so looking forward to having me be the War Machine Levi McIntire in COH, but I ended up telling him I'm going to go with a different name, and I don't know why Matt Barnes came up in my head. I guess because I always liked the name Matt, and Barnes because that is the last name of one of my favorite death metal singers, Chris Barnes, who was in Cannibal Corpse back in the day, who was in Ace Ventura, the first one at least. So I thought, Matt Barnes, that kind of has a ring to it. Little did I know it ended up being the damn name of a basketball player. And I thought, what the fuck? So I ended up having to stick out with that. And Travis, at the time he thought I was wanting to do something different. But it turned out to be it was because Marco wanted me to change my name. Now looking back, I really regret it. I really, really do, because looking back, I hate what ended up happening with the name and getting shat on and all this crap, and I just thought, yeah, I wish I could take all that back. But, go ahead.
I was going to ask, I mean, you said that people have said that if you were the War Machine, Levi McIntire, maybe you'd be getting the fist push, maybe things would be different. Mm-hmm. How different do you think things would have been if you weren't Matt Barnes and you were Levi McIntire?
Oh, it would have been a whole lot different. Like I could have bet you that after like Ultimate Glory 3, like several shows after, maybe at like Ready to Rumble, I probably could have been the Pride champion potentially if I would have stuck out with the War Machine character. Because I'll be honest, that's the one Call character that I've done that I do have a full grasp of what to do with, because with the whole Matt Barnes thing later on, I just was not sure, at least with it being a tag team, we did come to realize later on that I'm meant to be the guy in the team who shouldn't talk, and that Austin should, because he's got the more charisma out of the two of us, and he brings a kind of nice hip flair to the promos that he does for the team. And sometimes he'll do like raps in it because he was trying to go for a bit of a hip hop character with Brandon Ross, the Beantown Bad Boy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, burp. Yay, the Burp King's here. Well, not really, but so over time, the whole Matt Barnes character just got just shittier and shittier, and just suffered a lot to the point where when I was doing my promos, like, I recall that time Carol brought up the whole monotone Matt thing, which, damn it.
Jesus, Levi.
This will be on a bloopers reel.
Come on now, we're going to have some manners on the show, because we know the Shawn show always has manners.
Which, by the way, before I continue, have you ever thought about making a blooper reel of this show if you ever had any? Just for the hell of it?
I probably could. I would just have to go back and look.
You would have to look back a whole lot, yeah. And that would be kind of a pain.
Yeah, I'm lazy, so.
But to continue back to the topic at hand, so yeah, the character just ended up getting worse. It was meant to be a branch from the War Machine character, but in a different manner. And it was doing decent in the beginning, but then once Austin got to come in and have a different character, we thought, well, one of the things we've always wanted to do together in Call was be a tag team because we're such good friends. Mm-hmm. And that's how rap metal, and the name happened as a fluke, because we were discussing names, and I thought, well, how about we name ourselves after a music genre, rap metal, because Austin, you're a rap fan and I'm a metal fan, but we do like each other's music in some locations, so we thought, rap metal, that actually has a ring to it, and Travis loved it. And whenever we formed a team, we became rap metal at around November 2013. And our first program was with Jay and Max whenever they got to come over to COH. So Unwind Masses Rap Metal, which a lot of people remember that feud because it was a pretty good tag team feud that wasn't really for the belts. It was just more of just two teams who just can't stand each other and just want to beat the shit out of each other. And we ended up having a good series of matches that culminated in Tag Team Warfare that last year, which was really cool. And then over time, because I was just not happy with how I was just not happy with how some people were just shitting all over what I was doing in COH, or even suggest ideas for some people. And some people, and like Alex even brought up on Austin's old podcast a long time ago, he said that Levi's like the Jerry or Larry of COH, because whenever he says something or he's just trying to help out, it just goes to shit sometimes, or he farts for no reason, like, damn it, Jerry, damn it, Larry, and whatever. Because one of the examples was that whole 7 Deadly Sins, 10 Commandments thing. And I'm going to be straight up. The only reason Austin was the guy who came up with the name.
Mm-hmm.
I only did the picture as a joke. It was not meant to be me pitching to Travis, how about you do this? I just did it as a joke. But Travis just took that and just made it into its own thing. So, yeah. As much as I love Travis, damn it, why would you go with a joke?
Damn it, Travis.
Damn it, Travis. But yeah, so I do apologize for making that post, but like I said, I even said it to Alex, it was meant to be a joke. It wasn't even my attempt to try to make that happen. But, you know, it happened, and that's all you can say. But then, and of course we've already talked about in the past, the feud with Ramel and Ego, how it went. There's really no point to
yeah, see, we're not gonna
go about that ever again, because we have done that.
We've already done that.
And it's all in the past.
Right, like, there's no issues in regards to that. This already been discussed. Although I'll ask a couple things that haven't been asked. Like, one of the things, and you'd mentioned it earlier, and 'cause this is out of curiosity.
Okay.
You know, because, with the whole feud, obviously, going against Ego. Ego is does a lot of humor meant to hurt people in regards to their characters. Because, you know, our characters are dicks.
Yeah. No shit. After all, you and Carol had a tag team name in some other fed called The Dicks.
Yeah.
I remember that, so yeah.
One of the names that Carol called you, and it really caught on, Monotone Matt. Now, I'd like to know if you were ever bothered by that.
Oh yeah, I was absolutely bothered, because when I look back on it now, some of the promos I was doing at the time did kind of have that tone, because some of the, like, half of the promos I have done in call, I'd be right here where I'm sitting in my room in front of my webcam, and I would have to talk a little softer and not go off the wall, because my dad's room is right across from me. Mm-hmm. So I can't be so loud. So that's been a problem with some of my promos, because I'd be doing this. But whenever I do promos when I'm home by myself and I use my iPhone camera, those have been my good promos. Like, most of those that I've done, whether I'd be outside or by myself in my house with different cameras or whatnot, those have been some of my better promos, really. The promos I do on the webcam during the late times at night have been my worst. So, looking back on now, yeah, they were monotone-ish sounding because of that reason. But it did bother me, especially when it came from Carol, because, like we've discussed in the past, this was around the time when he started to develop hate, like, a lot of dislike towards me, so, right. Yeah. But yeah, it did bother me for a while.
Alright, now, all that happens with the whole Ego feud, we all know about it. But, the end game, Rap Metal won the tag team titles.
Yeah.
Now, that was, and we kind of talked about that, like, when you and Austin were on the show last time, because that's when, like, you guys just won the tag belts.
That was my glory up.
Yeah. And, it's been an interesting road. You guys started right off doing a feud with the Eradication, and rap metal on the side of Kenny Phoenix. So how was that with the rap metal in a much more central role?
Well, it was interesting to have that happen, but I will be honest, when it came down to whenever the draft happened, and if I can, my personal opinions on the CUH brand split, both shows have their own problems.
Yes.
You know, in my opinion, Slam has the better main event and tag team scene. Battleground has the much stronger mid-card at the moment. I mean, I know Travis and Adam and Steve all think that it's equal. I disagree with that because Slam, the main eventers you got over there, you got Patriot, you got Ray Geddes, you got Caleb Blair, you got Scott Adams now, even AJ Young to some degrees, so on and so forth. Battleground, you mainly have M. Accuracy, the Goonie, Kenyon Phoenix, and before he decided to leave, Nate. But at least Battleground are building guys to be up there, like Fisk and Jay, Stefan, Nitro. Then again, that's all part of the strong mid-card we've got. As far as me and Austin getting into a more kind of main event role, it was cool that Travis wanted to take a chance on us in that case, and we were doing some good things in the beginning, but then we come down to where we're at now with rap metal, where it's just the controversy mostly surrounding how Austin was kind of being about why he don't do a whole lot, and I hate to throw him under the bus for this, and I'll end up having to talk to him about this at some point if he doesn't watch the show. Some of the things he did say, I didn't necessarily agree with. I just didn't want to say it to him because I didn't want him to get pissed off at me. We have had disagreements in the past, but like calm disagreements. I don't know how he would feel about this disagreement.
Yeah, you know, and I'm sure you already know, or at least have heard, like, I've talked about what Austin had to say. I don't agree with what he had to say. A lot of people don't.
And Steve has had a talk about this with him recently.
Yeah, so, like, and the thing is, Austin, I've said some very, you know, mean things to him, but that's because I really feel the comments that he made really, besides them being wrong, were like so disrespectful, and it was very petty. Like, you know, it went from when you guys were on the show last time, and I remember him saying like, "Oh, you guys just gotta wait. We got all this stuff," and then months later go by, and it's like, if it's like, "Oh, where's a promo? Oh, I don't got time. I got a girlfriend. I got this. I do that. And it's like, dude, you're 16 years old, where there are people who are in their 20s or even 30s, some of which who have actual families that they have to feed and make a living for, who still find the time to do call. There's no way that these guys don't have lives. They have much busier lives than Austin, and that's not a diss towards them. That's just the truth. And these guys make time, and they don't make excuses when they could, and it would be feasible, but they don't make excuses. But when Austin, when times where he just does not do stuff, and it's a shame because you said it yourself, Austin's very good.
Yeah.
So I mean, even though I've you know, time to time said some bad stuff about Austin, I will always say he's very talented, and he has the promo skills and the charisma to be more successful than he is. I just think, you know, you can't be the person that blames everyone else. Sometimes you gotta take a look in the mirror and be like, hey, you know what? Maybe this is my fault. And you can't blame, and I hear he's going around and he's blaming COH. He's blaming other people. He's blaming criticisms, and he gets bothered because, and I was told that he said that he didn't like that he was being criticized, which is one of the reasons for the rumors of him leaving COH, is because he did not like the criticism, which, I'm sure just as well as I do, that's life.
Yeah.
You get criticized in life. It's just a matter of what you do. If it's constructive criticism, if it's criticism that is right, then you take what they say and you try to get better. Or if it's not good criticism and if it's just hate, then you just ignore it. It's a lot of hypocritical things, and I think that's the issue with it. Like, when Austin, he says how busy he is and how much he has a life, and it's just but when criticisms of some person who might be like, well, maybe you're not getting a push because you're not doing promos.
Right.
Like, but he's bothered by that. Like, it doesn't add up. And I'll give you the credit here, because, a lot of times, and I'm sure you get this more than I would probably even think, because you and Austin team up in COH, sometimes where one does one thing, you guys kind of get grouped into one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, oh, well, Austin said this, it's rap metal said this.
Yeah, like some people probably were thinking, like, some of the stuff Austin said, they were saying, like, oh, both members said this, when the only excuses I could even come up with as to why that feud was lackluster was because, at least with me, there was that whole thing with trying to get a job, but also because there were some people that were saying, oh, Levi shouldn't talk whatsoever, Austin should talk. While there have been people who said that I should talk less, there were some people who said you shouldn't talk whatsoever because you don't cut as good as promos as Austin does, so let Austin talk. And that's why I have said recently that the reason why I wasn't so much involved, because I personally didn't want to do promos, because I wanted Austin to do them, because, like I've said before, he's a much better promo cutter than me, and I thought if he could have done more promos, it would have helped, and I would just be the guy who just beats the crap out of people, which is what the team was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
But Austin, even though he said he did do a couple promos, but he never did get them sent to Travis, and that is unfortunate that happened. But
yeah.
But
this goes like not with the Ego feud. This is like after you guys won the tag belts.
Yeah, but then with the recent stuff, like him with the things he would say, and also because I've known Austin for so long, I know for a fact he does have, and I don't know if I should say, but he does have certain issues, and it's not really to give him an excuse. That it's just something he's been trying to get fixed for a long time. Because he's told me about these things, and it's unfortunate that these things happen to him, but he's been doing the best he can to get that stuff worked on. But, like, he has said, like, the stuff, like, the whole thing, like, he says he has a much better life than a lot of people, and he has a girlfriend, when I can look on what he says now, and I think, well, Steve has a girlfriend, and he's doing the best he can.
Mm-hmm.
But then another component too with Austin is that, I mean, then again, in most cases age don't matter, but he's a young guy, he's a young kid, he's 16, and me and Steve have told him, and you're still really young in your life, you still have a lot to learn.
Oh my God.
And a lot of young people, even people in their 20s, still have a lot to learn about in life and stuff like that. Like, most people are dumb in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
In their own way. And that goes for a lot of people, not just Austin. Like me, I'm 21 and I've done stupid shit. And I look back on and I regret. And because of that, and because I'm the kind of guy, and a lot of people know this, I'm the kind of guy who, if I ended up having a problem with, I'm going to try the best I can to make things right. And I've done that with Nate and Amir. Two guys who I thought I'd never, particularly Amir, two guys I thought I'd never ever buried a hatchet with, but we did. Me and Nate were really good friends now, and it's to the point where, little announcement, let me real quick drink of water, and I'm now part of CWS.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Nate said he'd love to have me on there because I wanted to give it a try, and also he's always wanted me to be a part of his feds, and I was just kind of, I kind of wanted to cut back on the shows I'd be a part of, but now with my work schedule, and I'm thinking that this upcoming Wednesday may be my last day of work for a while, so with that extra time, I can do more stuff, and I thought, I'll give CWS a try because I have heard good things about it, and I wanted to give it a try and see what happens. So I asked Nate recently if I could join, and he said sure. So new CWS guy. And that's all because me and Nate have been really becoming good friends, and I heard what he had to say about me on the show you did with him when you did name association with him, and yeah, it is true we didn't like each other at first, but once we got to know each other, we're really good friends.
That's good. That's good.
But back to, like, with the whole Austin situation, like, yeah, like I said, like, some of the stuff, the way he would say them, I don't agree with, and I am going to eventually have to have a talk with him about this, and he may get pissed off at me, he may not, I don't know, sometimes you never know with Austin if you talk to him a lot as a person like I have, or even David Rivera or Scott and Cash. But it's going to be one of those conversations that may be a bit uncomfortable to talk about with, but I'm thinking it'll work out because he never wants to hate me. In fact, he's practically my little brother.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, because I've known him for so long. But yeah, and finally, to address the rumors of not only Austin, but apparently me leaving as well. When it comes to me, I never said I was leaving. Only thing I said was I would take a break and actually have Rob split up at some point, and I get a character change, a massive one. And I've already talked about it with Travis, and he's up for what I'm going to do. You just gotta tune in and see here in the near future.
All right.
Now, as far as Austin...
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, as far as Austin, it's still kind of unsure. He has said that if he were to stay, he would personally want to go to Slam and help out the mid-card over there, which I think that'd be good. Because, like I said, Slam needs more mid-card stars, especially mid-card heels. Mm-hmm. And I think Austin would be a perfect fit for that.
As long as he does the promos.
Yeah, I'll have to tell him, dude, since you're over here, you need to put in what you gotta do to make sure you get what you're going for. And he's been doing that with YWF, but like I said, but like we've said with COH, he just has had some issues with how the criticism comes, but yeah.
All right.
So there you have it.
All right.
So now we finally got that put to rest. So
yes, we did.
All the people on Ask can shut the fuck up about that.
Oh, the call sheets? The call dirt sheets?
Yeah, which I don't know who you are, but fuck you. That's all I'm going to say. So, what you got now?
Well,
I suppose.
One second.
Okay. I actually have something that I was sort of, what's the word I was looking for? Leading up to a while ago when I was talking about certain YWF guys that I didn't like.
Okay, so if you want to do that now, let's do that now.
And this actually goes for not only YWF but all the other feds in general. Like, because I remembered on the show you did with Steve and Alex, which, by the way, great episode. Both parts. I noticed he was talking about how Steve was mentioning people who he hasn't resolved any issues with for different reasons. For me, the only people I personally haven't had any issues resolved would be Debtors, only because he's disappeared, and also, here's a story of Debtors. He was pretty much, the best way to put it, he was the YWF version of Rudo, except younger. Like, Debtors was younger than Austin. So I'm guessing, I don't know his exact age, but I'm guessing when I first started talking to him, he was probably like 10 or 11. Like, he was really young when I started talking to him, and he was internet champion at one point in YWF, feuding with Travis. But Debtors, he was the kind of kid who doesn't really know, like, I'm not trying to make an excuse like, he's just a kid or blah, blah, blah. It's like I've said before, we've all had periods in our lives where we've done and said stupid shit. And that's the case with him. But he would say things like, not just about Call, but with wrestling in general. He would, like, when it came to wrestling in general, Steve and Chronix can attest to this. I only know about this because they told me about it. They would be in a Skype call together, and they'd be talking about wrestling and talking about who should get pushed or who would get pushed. Debtors would say, Heath Slater's going to get pushed because he looked at him at a house show. That wasn't the best argument he put up. I remember one vividly. He said, Curtis Axel, the reason he's not getting pushed is because it's called the silent push. He's just gonna sneak by and sneak around everybody and get pushed. Yet, we are still waiting to this day. So, there's that. But, and the fucked up thing with Debtors and arguments, he won't get mad. Like, but the Curtis Axel one I heard he did get mad at, but any other one, like a Miz argument they had, he didn't get mad at. The Heath Slater one. Now this one was the straw that broke the camel's back with Debtors. This was July 2013, and this was around the time after Super Brawl 2 was done. And I have this Skype call that was recorded by Steve still on my computer because it's YWF history that's meant to be in the vault that I've got. But I will say, what ended up happening was it was originally a call with Steve, Amir, and Marco talking, and then Carl Jams, and they'd be talking about random stuff and YWF booking. Then Debtors would come in. And then he kept bringing up stupid shit about Chronix, saying, like, Chronix is scared of me, and he's a pussy, and he's a hypocrite, and blah, blah, blah. And Debtors decided to make a meme of, like, a chick with really big boobs and call her Crystal, Chronix's wife, and say something like, Marco, if you let Chronix be admin, then I'll put on my strap on and fuck you and Chronix like bitches. Or whatever the fuck it was.
That's going too far.
Yeah, and Chronix and he got into the call because somebody added him in, and then I eventually got added in. And Chronix is the kind of guy who won't get mad a lot. He's one of the nicest dudes ever. But this was my first experience seeing him or hearing him get pissed. Like, once he got in the call and after Debtors said what the meme said, he goes, and that's why your bitch ass just got blocked. And kicked him out. And he's like, motherfucker, you are done. Like, because he was so pissed off. And I don't blame him. I mean, that's his wife. You don't mess with another man's wife like that. And it led to this big, 1 hour argument of all of us trying to get to him, say, hey, what you did was wrong, and Debtors, I'm not lying, didn't show any sort of remorse for what he did. He just thought this is in real life, this is about YWF, when he private messaged Chronix for real, that when he put up the meme, Chronix deleted it, and Debtors messages him personally saying he's a pussy, and yet Debtors supposed to think it's all for character and stuff, and I'm just like, what the hell is this kid talking about? Because And also, Deaders is the kind of guy who thinks that if you get people legitimately mad at you, that's good heel heat.
Okay.
So that's why I say he's the YWF version of Rudo, because Rudo was that same way.
Mm-hmm.
But, so yeah, Deaders is a guy I never had any issues resolved with because he's disappeared. Firehawk, who was one of Deaders' friends and was a former world champion in YWF, but for one day. And here's another story. The day after the first ScyberSlam happened, when Firehawk beat AM Punk for the world title, the next day he got added to a Skype call, and he was just being a complete dickhead, and he got buried by the Joey Miles guy. So yeah, Joey Miles, one of the worst call people, buried somebody. That's kind of a head scratcher, but funny. And because of how Firehawk was acting, he quit YWF while world champion, and that led to a one-night only show where Amir got the belt back, like saying as if the belt never changed. And it was like, oh, that was such a debacle. But yeah, Firehawk was another guy I never resolved any issues with. And then the next two, who I probably won't really plan to resolve any issues with unless they were to apologize, Ryan Carroll and Rudo. So, there you have it. So those have been all the people in CAW that I've had problems with that I've never had any issues resolved with. And 2 of them because they've disappeared, and 2 of them because, well, everybody knows how they are, so it'd be like, unless they were to apologize or a compromise would happen, there's no point.
Okay, alright. So, that leads into this, because this seems an appropriate time to do this, but you mentioned some people. Let's do some name association. This is gonna be fun.
I always love these.
Alright, let's start it off here with, let's do someone controversial. Ryan Carroll.
Next person, please.
Ryan Sousa.
Ryan Sousa, a good friend of mine, and like I said before, he's the one who helped me get my break in CAW by being the first person to feud with. And like I brought up, I kind of alluded to this a little bit ago, an idea I would have if I were to be a world champion in YWF, the first person I would want to defend it against would be if Ryan Sousa wanted to come back for a one-off match, me and him, because we never did have the big rubber match, and I think it'd be appropriate because he did make a promo last year before Season 5, or when Season 5 started, and he said he would come back for 2 reasons, AM Punk and me. And he said, with me, yeah, you may be U.S. champion, and you may have given me the beating of my life, but you're still not on my level, boy. So I thought, well, if I were to be world champion, I've been wanting to talk to him about this at some point. Hey, if I become world champion, I want you to be the first person to feud with for the belt and have our rubber match. And I would want it to be a Hell in a Cell match. Because there's only been one other Hell in a Cell in YWF, and that was Kilo and AM Punk at Super Brawl 2. So, I'd be a part of a second of a Fed, which would be kind of weird, but, you know. But Ryan Sousa, if he were to come back and do promos again, I would love to feud with him. Despite being a Rock ripoff, he did a good job with what he did. So, and he's a good friend of mine.
Alright. Stefan Guerrero.
Oh, Stefan. Great friend, great YouTuber. Go subscribe, Heel Steven. Yeah, shameless plug for him. As a CAW guy, did have a little bit of like learning blocks to go through in the beginning when he first started in SPW, but then over time, he got so much better. He dropped the whole voice thing, because he even said when he was doing the voice thing, it would hurt his throat. So once he just decided to be himself, he got the internet title, and I'm really proud of him for that. And it's cool that he's doing big things for Battleground, and also a hell of a guy to talk to and fun to play cards with. Cards Against Humanity, that is.
Okay. All right. J Crack.
Oh, I was kind of scared for this. Jay, I don't hate him. Me and him lately have been having a lot of issues as of late. I don't know if you know about it, but I got it because on Ask FM, some asshole decided to put up a question, and I don't know if this was true or not. You'd have to elaborate. But apparently, somebody asked, do you still like Jay and Sako even though they ranted and buried you on Nate's episode? And if so, are you a dumb bitch? Can you elaborate that? Because I don't really know.
We talked about we talked about the whole Nate had mentioned something about people not putting in work, and you guys were referenced, but
Okay.
that was as far as I can remember the extent of it. It was just referenced in a past manner.
Okay. So yeah, and here's the fucked up part about when the question was asked. On my ask, when I had anonymous turned off, but somehow the question was asked anonymously.
I know Scott has that same problem.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. And then that led to an argument I ended up having with Jay on Facebook, where I was trying to say, hey, is there a problem with us? Because if so, I want it to be done and over with. And he was bringing up how he thought me and Austin were bringing up the whole Rap Metal Ego feud a lot, which I will say I did bring it up a couple times after the podcast we did was over, only because, and I said it to Jay, sometimes I do have a bit of a paranoia where I feel some people could be trashing me behind my back and I don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes say stuff that I don't necessarily mean or regret doing. And that's what ended up happening. And Jay was like pretty much like trashing Austin. Big time. Probably, I know you said you had some things to say about him, but Jay kind of went a little bit too far in some locations. Like he kept calling him a fuckboy bitch and stuff like that. And I thought, well, like I said before, I could agree that some of the things Austin did say before I don't agree with, but at the same time, like Jay didn't have to go like full on like hatred towards him, like to the point where he just wishes he could punch the guy in the face. Like, I mean, I'm thinking to myself, come on, if Austin were to like fix himself in that manner, I'm sure they can work it out, but after what happened, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So, and also he was being really negative towards me, and I thought, well, and I was talking to Nitro about this, and I just kind of thought he was kind of going too far with some of the things he would say about me in some locations. And so for that, me and Jay, we're not on the best of terms right now. So, I mean, we don't hate each other.
Right.
But I'm just going to keep my distance from him for a little bit, see what happens later, and maybe sometime down the line we'll finally talk it out and finally resolve everything that has happened for a year with me and him and Austin once and for all.
All right. Amir.
Oh, this is another interesting one. When I first started in YWF, he was one of the guys I would go up to for some advice on how I should present myself. And as a result, me and him, we became good friends out of that, and we would talk a lot on Skype. And to the point where on our respective YouTube channels, we would do collab videos together. Like, we would both do, like, top 5 worst matches of all time lists. Like, he would post a video about it, and I would, and back and forth until we got to number 1. So we had a good friendship at that point, but then when I heard some of the things that were said from Amir about certain issues that was happening, this goes back to the whole COH-YWF issue that happened for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
From what I heard, I'm not saying it's true. I know Amir may try to twist my words against me. I would hope not, but this is just from what I heard. And again, not saying it's true, but from what I heard, Amir was one of the reasons why there was beef between Travis and Steve up against Marco and Chronix. Because Amir kept accusing COH of stealing ideas from YWF, which, honestly, if I look at, I don't see it as stealing, I just see it as just big-time coincidence. Like, YWF, yeah, they did the draft and brand split first and doing 2 shows.
I'll say this, anyone who says a brand split is a ripoff clearly doesn't know that we're all ripping off WWE.
Pretty much, exactly. And then having 2 shows and stuff. I mean, it's just, for me, just ironic coincidence, honestly. I don't see it as them stealing or anything like that. Like, Amir would, like I saw, because Amir does his own show, like he's done 2 with Marco, 1 with Chronix. And I heard, like, on the Chronix one, he was saying, like, because this guy goes back to the whole thing with me and Austin attempting to come in as our YWF characters. Amir would say, like, why does Travis have to steal our stars if he can't make his own? I'm thinking, it wasn't his idea. He wasn't trying to steal us. We were wanting to go over there with those characters. And then they would say, but that's a rule. You can't go over with the same characters because we're all about creativity and stuff like that. Which, hey, if it's all for creativity, it's all good and well. But it's all depending on certain people's their repertoires as far as promo cutting and their characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my case, the only character I can really do properly is the War Machine character. I can't do a comedy character and expect people to get behind it because I probably wouldn't do a very good job with it.
Right.
And other characters like that or anything along those lines. So it's all depending on certain people. But yeah, and then Amir would say some dumb stuff sometimes, like regarding how he would respond to certain things on Ask and stuff, and that led to a big argument I had with him where I was pretty much calling him out on all the bullshit. And I ended up blocking him for a while, and then over time, and this kind of went down the same kind of a similar way with Nate, where I ended up blocking him because I just didn't want to have anything to do with him. Then over time, when I started to think, I just thought, well, it's been a long time. I think it's time I try to settle everything. And the same day, I settled the issues with both Amir and Nate. This has been a year now since we squashed our beef. But Amir, while not the best friend of mine, we are getting along a lot better now. But I still do think he does need to kind of chill out on some of the things he does say on Ask, like being seemingly kind of a dick towards some people. I think he should just calm down. But other than that, he's not a terrible person. In fact, whenever you get him away from Caw, he's not that bad of a guy to talk to. He's actually a good guy to talk to if you get him out of Caw.
Mm-hmm.
So, there you go.
Alright. Let's do Marco.
Oh, Marco, the man who gave me my break, the big break in Caw when I first came to YWF. Great person. I almost met up with him in New Orleans for WrestleMania, but he didn't go to Access the day of the show, which kind of sucks because I was looking forward to chatting with him. But he's a great guy. He does have some opinions about Caw, but also with wrestling. But at least the thing, and Steve has said before, that's a thing you can respect about him, is that he's not afraid to speak how he feels and everything like that. So Marco definitely knows how to handle himself, and he takes certain storylines. Some of the storylines he's done in the past were like off the wall, like one, for example, involving me. For my feud with Carl Jams, he would have me run over his grandma. And that was how it was. But the biggest off-the-wall done was the Raven Lopez getting pregnant storyline.
Oh, my.
I tell you, that storyline did bring out some of the best Marco Rose moments. This one in the season 4 of YWF, this was when Stu was doing the Seth McIntire character, just getting it going in YWF, contending for the world title. This led to an angle where Stu was driving the ambulance, and I like how the game they use for their matches is WWE 13, but they use for the ambulance segment Grand Theft Auto 4. They were presented as if Stu was driving the ambulance, crashing it, running over civilians. Just cracks me up every time I talk about it. But Marco, whenever you get him in the right mood and the right moments, he is hilarious with commentary and audio moments, because in that segment, he would be like, he just ran over civilians. Innocent civilians. Why? What have I done to end up in a world of chaos and grand death? And then that would lead to when Raven Lopez would give birth to the baby, and Marco would flip his shit and go, "Oh, what is all that? Ah, oh my goodness, it smells like sardines and pork and beans. Ah! Oh my God, I can't take it. Oh, the smell. The smell is horrific. Ah! Oh my God." Like, he could do a good Joey Styles impression with, "Oh my God." Oh, but he's just hilarious in that regard. And he's got a great funny voice, the Southern Tennessee accent. It's fun to hear. Like, he would say like Adrian Neville and Sami Zayn. That stuff is just awesome. And he's got a great voice to go along with that. So, Marco, great guy, a good booker for certain people, and he's done good for what he's done.
All right. Ken Shamrock.
Oh, random. Oh, Ken Shamrock, one of the greatest of all time in UFC. In fact, one of the first 2 UFC Hall of Famers in 2003. As a wrestler, very underrated. I think he was a very good wrestler in WWE. It's a shame he had such a short career, only 2.5 years. But for those 2.5 years, he did very, very well. He won Intercontinental titles, tag titles, so on and so forth. Got to be in big matches. Now, do I think he should be in the WWE Hall of Fame? Maybe. Just for the fact that he did make an impact in the Attitude Era's mid-card, and he was considered a celebrity for WWE because he came out of UFC into WWE. So, and he is the first MMA fighter to cross over into pro wrestling, which is big during that period, because people don't know, back in those days, UFC wasn't, or MMA in general, was not mainstream. It was very, very underground.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it didn't become mainstream or famous until like the early 2000s once Dana White came into UFC, and then he became sort of like the Vince McMahon of the MMA world, just put it on prime times channels and times, get all the best in the world for the most part, and have them clash. But Ken Shamrock, underrated wrestler, one of the best of all time in MMA. And apparently he's going to have another MMA fight against Kurt Angle at Bellator, and that should be interesting.
Well, let's see if Kurt Angle is living after that. That guy's.
But hey, at least the positive that's coming out of that, Kurt finally gets to be considered the first Olympic gold medalist in freestyle wrestling to go on to MMA.
That is true.
So that has finally happened.
All right. We'll save the best for last. At least
Oh yeah.
for you.
For me and also for a lot of people as well.
Let's go with Austin.
Well, like I said before, Austin's practically like my little brother. I've known that kid for a long time. Still talk to him a lot on Skype to this day. As a call guy, for being arguably considered the youngest in call currently, one of the best as far as charisma and promo cutting because he knows what to do. At first, I'm not lying when I say this, when he first did his promos in YWF, he was calling himself the baddest 14-year-old on the planet.
Oh, God. That's awful.
And Paul, and this is a little funny story, Paul Morris brought up in a Skype call over a year and a half ago that he said, remember, he is the baddest 14-year-old alive. I'll never forget him in a promo saying he's the baddest 14-year-old alive. I almost killed myself. And Austin's like, oh, I hated that original Austin Reed character. And then Paul's like, well, once you said you were the baddest 14-year-old, I'm thinking, what, are you going to go running around the playground and punch 6-year-olds? And Austin's like, well, dude, I'm the king of tag. What you going to do?
Oh, my.
But luckily, once he got into the feud with Amir, he quickly grew out of that and became a top star for YWF to the point where, and I still say this to him, I do get a little jealous he won a belt before I did in Kaw. And a big belt, the Internet Heavyweight title, the Mayhem's equivalent to a world championship. And he did very good for that short time. He had a good match with Capital Dude to win the belt. He had a really good program with Kerry Perry, arguably one of the greatest commentators in the history of Kaw. And then another good match with Amir, even though he kind of did handle that match a little bit wrong, but at the same time, you kind of understand, like, this was during the time when Amir was kind of starting to become a little overzealous with power and stuff, even though they say he has no power, but yeah, because this is when he just got into Gen Next, and Austin did not want to drop the belt to him. He wanted to drop it to TJ Profit, which honestly, in my opinion, would have been the better move for building up stars. But it all worked out at the end, and everything went through okay. But Austin, and we have said our piece about some of the things he says, but like I said, once I have the talk with him, hopefully he can understand where we've been from and stuff like that, and everything will be fine. But other than that, great kid, fun to talk to, and fun to play cards with, and I'll say this, his laugh is like magic.
Like magic?
If I could describe it anyway, because any time he laughs, I laugh because he has the funniest laugh I ever heard. Like sometimes he'll go, or sometimes sound like the Joker. Hell, recently, I'll say this, recently he did a laugh that Stu described as Jewish Joker.
Oh my.
and Steve would say, wait, if he's Jewish Joker, does that mean he's gonna go, Mazel Tov, Batman?
Oh my.
But anyways, we can move on now.
Alright. Well, Levi, it was good having you on. Look back at the old fables, address some of the rumors that these call dirt sheets, which I still don't get. Who do they think they are?
Yeah, why do they have to start a bunch of stupid drama with people and all this crap? Why does it have to go down like that?
Because people have nothing better to do.
Yeah. Losers!
Yeah.
Or as Shawn Michaels, loser!
Well, Levi, it was great having you on.
This was really fun this time around.
Yeah, it was much more fun, and
we got some good laughs out of this.
Yeah. Is there any last comments before we hit the road?
Well, also I almost forgot to mention I am now a part of SWA, Steve's Fed Ace Running Back,
Okay.
which is pretty cool. But so yeah, I'm going all over the place once again like I used to be in the past. But for closing statements, I hope for people who may have had unsure feelings about me, hopefully their perspectives have changed and realize I'm not a malicious asshole or anything like that, that I'm not hard to get along with. And you know this exactly for a fact, Scott. I'm not hard to get along with. Just as long as you don't push my buttons and say a bunch of things that go too far, then no problems whatsoever. And also, for a final closing statement, say no to drugs, say yes to porn.
Can't disagree with you there.
Thank you very much.